start. Thanks for your patience and enjoying this slow morning. We only have one presenter this morning, so we've got plenty of time. And I don't know where half of our community is, but why do you guys all clump in the back? It's like we got all this room and you clump in the back. It's hilarious. All right. With that, Neeraj Lal is here with us to tell us about natural light, better than what we are experiencing this morning here with the windows, with Purillume. So with that, Neeraj, come on up and tell us the story. Thanks. Welcome.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Neeraj Lal, and I am the CEO and founder of Purillume, where my goal is to help people experience work in a new light, and also a better light. For those of you that have seen Purillume in the past couple of years, you'll see a little shift. I started off focusing on hotels and hospitality, which I still think is a good market, but along the way I had individuals buy the lamp, stick it in their office, and I started to get feedback like this. So this is a VP at Morgan Stanley, put it in his office, and he said, "This light has dramatically improved my productivity and mood in the office. I don't even drink my morning coffee anymore." Now, I need my morning coffee, so I don't agree with this, and I don't think 1 million cups is going to rebrand to 1 million lamps.
You're talking to the wrong group.
Like I said, but when you supplement with coffee, it works out well. But that's really the power that light has, right? The power to energize, the power to wake you up, to relax you. And it's funny, because we spend a majority of our time indoors. And a bulk of that, for a lot of us, is stuck in the indoor office environment. Harvard Business Review actually did a study that came out in September. And it did a study and said, what are the employees looking for in terms of their top perk? And if you're me, I'm thinking free food, foosball table, ping pong table, gym access. And I was surprised. And kind of worked well for me, because they came out and said the number one office perk that people are looking for is natural light, right? Over half the respondents said they felt gloomy, they felt tired when they didn't have access to natural light. But the truth is, we can't always get natural light. You know, depending on the way the office was built, the office layout, the weather, the time of the year, sometimes the access to the natural light just isn't possible. And that's where the Purillume solution comes into play. Right? My goal is to deliver this close to natural light as possible to the indoor environment. I've been following the science behind lighting and seeing what the researchers are saying. And it's really about getting the photons on the eye, right? We do that with our kind of proprietary light delivery system, but it's also this natural and realistic light, right? It's great high color rendering. I've actually had people call this light soothing, which I don't think anybody's ever said about lighting before. But the other aspect about this is really, it's about what's best for you, what's comfortable for you. Everybody's got a different preference for light, whether it's daylight white, warm white, different brightness levels. We've given people the ability to create an environment that's comfortable for them, which is going to get the most productivity out of them. I know you're going to say, well, why the Purillume lamp? So I've got two basic competitors out there. You know, the first are kind of these task lights, these little bent over arm lights that you'll find at Target, Walmart, Amazon, all over the place. And usually they're pretty dim. The quality of light's really poor. And it's directing the light on the workplace. It has nothing to do with the science that says, hey, you need to get this bright light on your eyes, on the photons on your eye. My second set of customers are customers that are coming in and saying, hey, we're gonna gut this entire fluorescent system, put in this, the term is now human-centric lighting, that's going to tune the light throughout the day. And so there's a company that did this in Europe, and the studies that they did for the next for several months showed an 18% improvement in productivity, 70% of employees talking about feeling happier and healthier and just better overall mood in the office. And I thought that's great. And I talked to designers here, and they say, well, we've looked into that, and we get the sticker price for that, and it's pretty much the entire cost of our office retrofit, which hasn't included furniture or anything at this point. So what we've done is provided this on that personalized level, this localized level, because even if you put in this complex system, you're still not going to make everybody happy, because people are going to say, well, that's too bright, it's too dim. Now we're allowing people to localize the lighting for their own area. The other thing that we focus on is the energy savings, right? It is an LED light source, but what it does is it allows people to turn off the overhead lighting, dim the overhead lighting, and focus the lighting themselves, which gives that additional energy savings aspect, which isn't available to a lot of the corporate clients. The market itself, there's a lot of play. Last year, the BCC research said it was a $2.7 billion market just for LED lighting in offices, with the expected growth in 2022 to $3.7 billion. And the way I'm attacking the market is, I've been starting off with individuals, right? Best way to get that sale into is get this into the offices, like you saw the Morgan Stanley office. Get the testimonials, prove the concept out, show people that, hey, this does have a benefit to customers or to employees. And ultimately the goal is to get to two areas. One is direct to corporate entities, right? So I'm in conversations with all these customers because there's a big push in the workplace today to make the workplace a healthier place. They want to get more people to come into the office, stay in the office, and give more control, because people are looking for more control. They want to control as much as they can in their workplace and work environment. Whether it's a sit desk, stand desk, sitting on a bouncy ball, people want control over their space. This gives corporate entities another avenue to deliver to their employees, saying, hey, you can now control your lighting in your area that works best for you. And then finally, it's partnering up with either furniture manufacturers that don't have a strong lighting portfolio, or furniture resellers that want to add something unique to their product portfolio as they're out there as well. I've been in the LED space since 2005, and prior to starting Purillume, I spent 5 years at Cree as a product manager. So I got a chance to learn the technology, understand the marketplace, and saw that there was this definite gap in terms of if you wanted a bright, high-quality light source, it ceased to exist. The light source that I've created is a true equivalent of a 150-watt incandescent, right? Just can't, I still don't understand the marketing on the shelf, because it's the 150-watt equivalents that you'll find in a bulb on the shelf are low CRI, and they're usually about 20% dimmer than an actual 150-watt incandescent. And although I'm a solo entrepreneur, I've done my best to surround myself with an advisory board that helps fill the gaps, make sure that I'm on the right path and on the right direction, so that I can get myself to the next phase. And how can the 1 million cups in the audience help today? I'm really looking for anyone who wants to pilot the lamp, right? The best way, especially locally, is I go give people a lamp, try it out for a week, and some of my best sales are I go back to pick it up and they're like, I can't go back to my crappy lighting. Right. So don't make me do that. Sell me this lamp. So that's been working out well, which is always nice. But it's also really introductions to corporate customers and potential distribution partners. And then I am looking for investors to help grow the company, turn this into more than just a one-man show, and to get Purillume to the next phase. And at that point, thank you, and I'll take questions. Yep.
What is insufficient about the hardware in the otherwise 150-watt equivalent bulbs that you think is lacking?
So it really comes down to a space constraint, right? So the amount of power that you need to dissipate from the electronics plus the LEDs, when you're constrained in this light bulb form factor, they just can't get the heat out to make a reliable light source that's going to last what they're saying it'll last. So they've got to cut back on to deliver the higher CRI, the higher color rendering, takes 20% more energy in most cases. And so if you look at, they're delivering a solution that's 20% dimmer. If they were to get that brightness and the higher color rendering, they just can't get the heat out in the electronics today.
So so your lighting elements are allowed a larger form factor?
It does, and then, like I said, I've got the solution over there. Feel free to. The best part is taking a look underneath the hood, because it is a custom solution. It's actually a patented design that allows me to deliver the omnidirectional light that you expect, deliver the light, the photons on the eye, and still deliver that brightness and quality that you can out of a light bulb.
Go ahead. Where is it manufactured and what's your capacity?
So my manufacturing partner is in Spokane, Washington, right now. The goal is to do the final assembly and test. Right now I'm ramping up, but I do have a partner that's lined up overseas to be able to ramp up the volume relatively quickly.
So that was one question. Thank you for asking that. First of all, thanks for sharing your story. It's always refreshing and invigorating to hear folks take a an idea to market. You've obviously done that. That's pretty cool. My question has to do around your competitors. Who are your competitors? How do you distinguish yourself from them, and what are the barriers to entry for those folks versus what you may not have?
So, like I said, the two main competitors I see are usually the desk and task light that's got this bent over arm,
Yeah.
which doesn't follow the science, right? Doesn't deliver the health and wellness, the brightness that you need to get those photons on the eye throughout the day. There are bulb manufacturers that are doing color tuning. Philips Hue is usually one of the most common, most well-known ones out there. You need 3.5 Hue bulbs to get the brightness that I'm delivering, right? So a lot of it's just about getting that brightness on the eye. You don't need the full brightness depending on what your personalized light level is. But the goal for me was to be able to create this work environment that, just in any environment, I do have a residential version, but create this environment with a nice, like I said, soothing, pleasing light that's comfortable, that's customizable.
And maybe I missed this. Is there IP associated with your product?
There is. So the design patent on the light structure has been approved, and and the utility patent is kind of pending, going through the fun USPTO process.
Two things, maybe just for overall people's knowledge. If you told them what the natural light outdoor CRI is and what you have on your lamp is one thing, and maybe just a quick review of what the features are on yours and the variability of the lighting and what you can do with it.
Yep. So we'll start with the first part. So the question was, where does the CRI scale come from? And it essentially stems from two sources. One is the sun, which is the true gold standard, and the second is the incandescent, which did a really good job of rendering color. So the scale is out of 100. Most of the LED bulbs out there are 80 to 85, and what I'm delivering is a 92 plus base solution that actually, like I said, it makes the 80 CRI that you see is the same CRI that's getting output out of these fluorescent tubes. You see the color difference in the skin tones, the reds and the greens, and when you increase that to 90 and above, you actually start to see that more natural, realistic color. And the second question was regarding
maybe just a drop list in regards to the features of yours and how that differentiates between others.
Yeah, so the brightness, you got essentially 3,000 lumens, which is essentially a 150 watt incandescent, but you can dim it down all the way down to 10 lumens, which is a very deep dimming scale. That's a very smooth dimming, which is a lot of the systems that are out there, when you dim them down, they kind of clunk and make it step functiony. And the second is, we got a color temperature range that goes from 6,500 Kelvin, which is a blue enriched white light, which is the light you want to avoid at night, is actually good for you in the morning time and early part of the afternoon. And then you can get to the incandescent 2,700 Kelvin, and it does incorporate the warm dimming that when you start dimming it down from there, it goes to a nice candle-ish 2,200 Kelvin. We have presets built in, and I encourage everybody, please go play. That's why I brought them, because it's always part of the fun and the experience. But you got sliders that you can dial them in, presets that you can adjust, and a feature I was hoping to have ready today, but will be ready in the next week or so, is essentially an auto cycle button, which will tune the light throughout the day, but it still gives you some control. So you can pick 4 time slots that, morning, lunch, after lunch, and evening, and it'll follow the science and cycle throughout the day, so that you can either follow the science or you can override it through the presets and the sliders.
Tony, and then Roger, and then we'll go back over to the other side.
So I'm a gamer, and I'm curious as to whether or not you looked at the gaming market for this, primarily because gamers, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but in terms of peripherals, it's a huge market that is growing, and considering the amount of money that being invested in esports in particular, I can totally see an opportunity, especially for like a pilot, for how this product could benefit that market, because what I'm listening and what I'm hearing right now, you're trying to attack these super huge, big markets, but it sounds like there's a lot of competition there, and I'm wondering if it might make more sense to focus on a niche market that's growing, but that's just a thought. I'm just curious as to whether or not you looked at that.
It's a market I have not looked at. I'm kind of seeing what's going on in the gaming world, but I hadn't kind of thought about that marketplace, and I'll definitely look into it.
So follow-up conversation afterwards, right? Yeah. Thanks, Roger.
Right. What's the cost for one of these, then, I mean, it might help with this solution.
Right.
And what's the cost to manufacture, and how much do you sell it for?
So the current online sales price that I have on the website is $450 for the touchscreen version, $350 for the non-touchscreen version. What that does is it leaves room in there for channel partners, direct sales and volume to customers. The initial proto build, there was not a lot of money being made on these. As I get into volume production, I should be getting close to that 50% gross margin at that point.
Have you considered contacting mental health professionals that have patients that are affected by seasonal affective disorder?
That is something that I am looking into, and a question that I've been asked. You know, what I tell people is that the light panels that are out there for seasonal affective disorder, they have a certain lux that they put out, and the recommendation is that you sit in front of it for 30 minutes a day, right? And it's not very, you need to accommodate your schedule for such a thing. When I talk about this light accumulation on the eye, part of my goal is to deliver a similar brightness over a longer period of the day with that blue and rich white light that allows you to help combat that, right? So unfortunately I don't have the budget to be able to do the studies behind that, but the science is based off of the technology that's out there and the research that's already out there that does help as well.
What, sorry, just one quick follow-up.
Yeah, exactly.
What is the lifetime of the bulb that's in there?
So it's a standard LED source that'll last 50,000 hours. You know, if you use it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it'll last you 5 years, usually depending on your usage. You're using it for less than half a day, so it's about a 10-year lifespan.
And the cost to replace just the bulb?
My cost, by the time it does need to be replaced, I expect it to be much less than it is right now. So I tell people it'll, you know, be as adjustable as possible at that time.
All right, Eric, and
I was
then
gonna ask
and then
a
Paul,
question.
and then we'll come back to you.
It sounds like you kind of answered this earlier, but are you open to licensing or a distribution partner that could get this out really quickly?
I am. So I'm actually talking to a lamp manufacturer in Virginia who's taking a look at the technology to be able to come up with different form factors. They're actually focused on the hospitality market, so that allows me to use them to focus on one market while I'm sitting there focusing on the office lighting market.
Awesome, yeah, I think that'd be huge, especially since you have a patent. And then, is there some feedback on like the way you communicate this? I think you need to dig in more on the pain of this.
Can you do me a favor, stand up? We're having trouble hearing you.
Sure. So I think you need to maybe dig in more on the real pain point of using all of these like lights and everything. And I think the seasonal depression is a really good one to dig in on that and make people feel it, because a lot of people don't really think about it. And if they're not feeling a pain, they're not going to take action to resolve it. Like people don't. If there's a problem, they're not going to do anything.
It's definitely true, and while I would love to say I control the weather, this is a perfect day for this type of presentation. But really, the way I actually see it is my ideal target markets are places like Boston and New York, where the sun set, I think, last week at 4:30 in the afternoon. And I grew up in Chicago. I remember the gray skies from September through March. Like, people always ask why Chicagoans are so happy in the summertime. I'm like, because they had to live through the crap for 6, 7 months. And so you get the sun out there, they're happy, right? So
Germany?
you see a lot more blue skies here in North Carolina than you do in some of the northern parts of the U.S. So I agree. I do need to place more emphasis on it, but it also is a very location-centric to a certain extent as well.
Okay, I think you're up next, and then, yeah, Carol.
Question. Okay, GE just, I know GE is going down, they've been doing LVs like for the past couple years, and they've able to reach the consumer good radio and all that stuff, and they've been struggling with the Chinese to put the thing that, but like Philips is one of the biggest company which does the lights and all that stuff. Why don't you just partner with them, because the pricing of yours and, you know what I'm saying, it's way, you know what I'm saying, just why don't you look into partnering with Philips and them and with them and all that? Did you look into that?
It is something I would look into. Part of it was it took me, I started the company 4 years ago, but I didn't get into production until the end of last year, beginning of this year. So it's really, the goal was to fly under the radar so that I could beat any competitors out to the market in terms of the brightness, the control, the color temperature, tunability that you have. that you can't do in a bulb, right? So that was kind of, it's something I'm definitely open to looking. There's actually a big company down in Atlanta or south of Atlanta that looks at companies that are doing something innovative and tend to grow through partnerships and acquisitions. So they're one that I'm looking at as well. But I'm definitely open to partnerships moving forward.
Neeraj, great. That's a great presentation. Is there any studies that show that this actually would help even students at colleges or universities when they're studying?
There's a ton of studies out there, and so a lot of the studies that are being done are companies going into classrooms, especially K through 12 classrooms, and putting in this circadian tunable light. Students like it because they either, like I said, either follows the science or just the teacher says, hey, it's time to wind down, let's change the light. My kids have a lamp in their room, they love reading by it, they're young, but it is a definite potential market for education just because you get, I mean, we were all students, we remember sometimes you just gotta stay up till 3 o'clock getting that paper done. You'll stay up a lot easier with this bright blue light than you will with standard light sources that are out there.
I think it's a very good idea. I was just thinking back to when I had my companies going. There was one time where two people who sat fairly close to each other, one had a light much brighter than the other was sensitive to light. Is that a problem too? Is there any way to focus it or direct it?
Yeah, so if you look at the two light sources that are on over there, I've developed what I call a shade shield on one of them. So it's blocking the light out the sides, the top and the back, but still gets the light on the user that wants to use it. So especially with given the new either open office formats or the ability to have multiple people sitting next to each other, you know, this I can definitely adjust anything about the lampshade. I'm actually using a local supplier down in Alabama, so they can make whatever I ask them to. But the ability to do that is something I'm definitely looking at.
And just as a follow-up, have you done market research on the price seemed fairly high? Somebody frugal like me who just bought my last lamp at the dollar store, literally.
What's the price of gas?
Have you gone out and actually done market research on that people wouldn't pay that much?
I have. So it's, you know, I liken it to that Herman Miller chair, right? Sure, you can go to your Office Depot and buy your $59.99 chair, but there's the science behind it that says how people work better, more productive if they have better seating. A lot of what I tend to do is education because the light, while people know about light, the science behind it is still relatively new. So, but you know, I tell companies all the time is your biggest expense, your biggest bottom line item is the salaries of your employee. You know, I'm not even saying if you can get 18%, if you can get 5%, if you can get 7% more out of your employee out of a $400 lamp, that's a pretty good return on your investment right there.
Does the science work if the light is in an overhead is canister like these lights, or does it have to be in lamps so you get the photons?
So the fluorescent systems that they're putting in do a good job of dispersing the light. This one over here is going to give me a headache because it's very glary and I can see it right there. So a lot of it depends on how the light is being dispersed, right? So the fluorescent systems that they talk about do a good job of illuminating that desk space, but like I said, it's a very pricey system to put into place.
So could you take your bulbs and put them into those systems, or does it have to be in the lamp?
No, so I've designed it so it is very modular. If you go over there at the end, you'll see a prototype in the middle. You know, one of the feedback that I get from a lot of the offices that the current base size is too big. So I've created a version that will be allowed to minimize that desk space. But it's like I said, it's very modular, so I can take the components and put them into other fixtures. Whether I would put it into a linear system, like a troffer replacement, probably not. There's a lot of big guys out there chasing that space. But I would look at other avenues. You know, I'm doing a retrofit in a pendant light that can be used in office conference rooms where now you can control the color temperature, the energy in a conference room based off your lighting.
Does that lower the cost at all, or just less?
You know, oddly enough, the pendant lighting market gets a higher ASP than the table lamp market, so it's one of the reasons I'm looking at that.
John, you were next. Do you still have a question?
Yeah, what is the energy usage on your lamp compared to standard LED lighting in either the office or the hospitality space?
Sure. So, like I said, it's 150 watt incandescent light output, which I can do in 40 watts. And so the light bulbs, if you go buy on the shelf, you went and bought a 150 watt incandescent LED bulb, it says you can do it in about 22 to 25 watts. It's also 20% dimmer than mine, and it has the lower color rendering, right? So it's hard to make that apples to apples comparison off of something that you're buying off a shelf when you don't have the same light output and quality that I'm delivering. Right? They're not going to say that, people aren't going to say that light is soothing. They're going to say it's just an LED light source, right?
Tony.
Did I answer?
I'm just trying to, I guess, in an energy efficiency standpoint, is there a difference between standard product and what you have?
So there is, like I said, to deliver the higher quality source, it takes 20% more energy.
Okay.
But what I've seen is customers that put this in their offices actually dim their lighting or actually turn off their overhead fluorescent lighting, which at that point gives you energy savings that you can't technically calculate, or you're compensating for by having a localized light source.
So have you already working with people are WOW certified, means similar the organization in the United States, Green Council building, they have the LEED certification, you have another side WOW. Sometimes it's a lot of stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, so
Can you repeat the question?
yeah, so the question was, have I been talking to people in the WELL certified space for building? For those of you that don't know, what the WELL building standard is now in phase, I think 2.0, but it's a standard that takes a look at 7 different components. Now it's 10 different components in an office. Lighting is just one of those components, right? So my product does have the ability to become a WELL certified lighting product. Most companies that are looking at that, they've already spent all this money to get LEED certified. And the WELL certification takes things into, what are you serving in your vending machine? What type of food are you offering? What's your air quality? There's a lot of other aspects outside of lighting that make up those other 10 components. So I tell people, yes, if my product does meet the WELL certification standard, a lot of the people I'm talking to, they're like, I talked to Blue Cross Blue Shield last week, and they said that they took away all of the unhealthy snacks, and it was like a revolt and revolution in the office place. So they would have a hard time meeting that standard. And so that's one of the reasons that companies, because it's very complex, haven't quite looked at it completely.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Do you need to back up a little bit then and work with the developers or the architects, right? To get
So,
on the front end of that?
Yeah, so I am talking to interior commercial architects and designers, because a lot of times if you can, I kind of talked about the ability to lower your light levels overhead. You've got to make sure that the system is in place that you can do so they can dim down the lights and then use this localized lamp as part of an option.
All right, Rick, I think you had one, and then, okay.
Yeah. So another to take a look at, me, I believe in incentives and as much as possible. But have you taken a look at working with a lot of the medical arena? Because I know I had friends that had SAD syndrome up in Pennsylvania, and they can put that on their insurance and get the insurance to pay part of it to offset the cost from a prescription standpoint. And employers that have health savings account and equity savings accounts, if they have a employee that's identified with SAD, that they can actually use some of that money to pay for that. Just a thought.
Yeah, that's something I have not looked into. I'll definitely look into it. One of my questions I'm sure will come up is, what studies have you shown that this actually works with SAD? So my goal would be to actually pilot customers in the Northeast to say, how did you feel? More subjective testing, but I've been using the lamp for quite a while now, and I know the impact that it has on people.
Okay.
Flipping back to the interior design question, have you spoken to Gensler specifically?
I have. So I actually met with one of the lead Raleigh office individuals last week, and we're setting up a visit post-Thanksgiving to do a lunch and learn demo of the lamps in their office.
Okay. You may want to skip over that because you're going to waste about 2 years of your time. No, I'm not saying that in bed. They have a licensing product division. It's the greatest conflict of interest ever that's never been prosecuted, other than Social Security. But setting that aside, these folks have an entire array of products that they spec in almost every project, and it's licensed, and it's their stuff. It's got the G on it, and they make tons of money from it. They've got a guy who runs that group who actually is from the lighting business. So
Okay.
he's out of New York. I don't know if he's still there or he's retired, because I haven't been in touch with him in a while, but to me, that's your best bet. Circumvent these guys, go right to New York, get there, and either get a yes or a no. Because they could have this rolled out in about, 1 million feet within a year or two.
Right.
And then you're rolling. Now, they're your partner, but that's okay.
It's
It's a
not a
white
bad partner
label
to have.
gig and you make your agreement.
Yep.
That's the way to do this, because they're gonna be the best, the biggest and best, way to do this in terms of corporate interiors.
No, I appreciate that. I did not know they had such a program, so we'll go hunt them down.
That's the magic of one many
Oh.
Right?
That was sweet. That was sweet.
So I'm originally from the Northeast, specifically Syracuse, where it's. Right. I knew I liked you. And there is a research facility up there that specifically focuses on indoor environments called the Center of Excellence. And I'm curious as to whether or not you have a connection with them, because it'd be really interesting to possibly do some research, because they do pilot different, products and things. And I don't think they've done anything with lighting. They've done a lot with like indoor air quality and things of that sort. But I'd be curious as to whether or not they'd be interested in entertaining something with lighting. And obviously with them as a partner, it gets research. You're in the market already, and who knows what other channel partners you could spawn from that.
Okay. I do not have any contacts or connections there, so that's something to look into as well.
One more. I didn't know, Neeraj, if you had in the presentation, when you consider a retail outlet, retailing of the lamp, either online or in office stores.
Or like with Brookstone or something.
Yeah.
Right?
So, true retail I didn't look at just because I didn't have an access to that channel or finding the right partner there. I am talking to some of the local office furniture people about, I've got a meeting set up for after Thanksgiving to add this as part of their portfolio, or potentially add it as an approved vendor for their lighting solutions for offices. Online, like I said, the goal for me was to get up to that volume, get that traction, so that I can make a bigger splash out there in the marketplace.
Basically, you ought to take a look at Touch of Modern, based on the price point right now. Touch of Modern, and I have a contact over if you want. But they're high-priced products and unique products online.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea, and I really like what you're doing. All these great questions and suggestions to you. I saw your advisors. How many employees do you have?
It's just me right now.
I thought so.
I am the solo entrepreneur.
Yeah. So you may have a bandwidth issue on some of that, but
Yep.
do you have some people that you can outsource the ideas to as your advisors and let them
I
trial
do.
some of
I
them?
do. I do. I have a couple of contacts that can help me with some of the stuff there.
And how is it being financed now?
So I started off being self-funded. That got me into the prototype phase. I did a small friends and family round to get me into the manufacturing phase. And right now the goal is it's being funded through sales, but the goal is to raise a little bit more money to hire staff, build up a little bit more inventory, and go explode in the marketplace.
Okay, probably last question.
Okay. What is your current production capacity?
So I have an inventory buildup of 50 lamps that's staged, so it's not final goods, because like I said, one of the feedback that I got was the body style. So I don't want to limit myself to the body style, but the guts of the electronics are all ready to go to build up another 50 to 75 lamps. And then like I said, I've got the back-end infrastructure set up that in 2 months I can go deliver another 200 plus lamps relatively quickly.
Okay. Last question.
Are any of the internal components available in a kit form? And I'll tell you what the reason why I asked that is if you could answer the
Yep.
question.
So I am working on a retrofit version that will allow you to install it into an existing table lamp.
Okay. The reason I suggested is you have two elements that sort of jump out at me. One is the design. You have a design patent, but just the element of what does the lamp look like. And the other is who is your target, who could use it, it's expensive.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm working on that kit to be able to offer not only for hobbyists, but people who just, hey, I love this lamp that I've had, it's my grandmother's, I need to keep this. All right, let's improve your lighting now with offering you a kit. So that is something I'm definitely moving forward with as well. And like I said, I'm here for a while. Please play with the lamps, have some fun, get some more coffee.
Get up for Neeraj. Good stuff. I want to shout out the audience too. Those are some awesome questions. Give it up for yourselves. Let's go.
Yeah.